Oh, okay, thanks. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the City Council's Budget Work Session number 4 here on April 27th at a little bit past 8 p.m. Apologize to those in TV land. At this time, the chair will take a motion to enter into the Budget Work Session.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any objections? Hearing none, we will head into budget.
One question, Mayor Pro Tem. The first item would be the City Council. You want me to save that for last, or until the mayor gets here? Or
Yes, yeah, let's wait until
fine.
we have a full body.
Thank you. And we'll start on page 53 with the city manager's budget, and I'll proceed. The city manager is the chief administrative officer for the city. He supervises all staff and is responsible for the effective management of all financial and administrative actions of the city. The manager is appointed and serves at the pleasure of the city council. He is responsible for the implementation of all policy matters established by the council for the enforcement of all city ordinances. The city manager keeps the city council informed through a variety of reporting procedures that assist the council in its policy-making role. Looking at our objectives for fiscal year 2022, plan and conduct a staff retreat by June 2022. This is on schedule. We have scheduled our event for, what is it? June the 30th, right? Right, June 3rd, excuse me. And B, with the council, conduct and update the city's 2016 strategic plan in the first half of the year. We're scheduling a strategic planning meeting to be held on June the 30th, by June the 30th for the City Council, and we're still working on that. Conduct a citywide review of all city and Bowie policies and practices to ensure ongoing best practices are fair and non-discriminatory, and that we are currently, an RFP has been submitted. We've gotten numerous responses, and we'll have that consultant working on that within the next 30 days or so, certainly before the end of the fiscal year. The workload indicators have risen a bit from 22 and what's projected for 23, since we are opening more with the coming out of the pandemic. We haven't scheduled any objectives for this fiscal year yet. We have no significant changes, budget changes in this budget. As you can see here, the persons we are talking about, I'll read those since this is a special little section. It's myself, the city manager, the assistant city manager, our director of grants, of office grants, grants manager, grants writer, grants intern, executive office manager, and our part-time risk manager, all go into making up 7 full-time employees in the city manager's office. Most of the money spent here is on salaries and wages and fringe benefits, $863,200 and $258,600 respectively. Contractual services, professional services, fair housing, and many of the CDBG federal requirements are covered in the $133,900. Travel training, and we do have a municipal grants program, the CDBG money, which is $148,000 down at the bottom under other. Are there any questions from the council about the city manager's budget? If there aren't any, we'll proceed with the HR department or division of the city manager's department. The HR office provides service and support and staffing solutions to the city operations, taking a leading role in vital areas such as talent acquisition, employee and labor relations, benefits administration, performance management and compensation analysis. It is a primary objective of this office to ensure that the city of Bowie maintains the most talented and highly engaged and well-equipped staff as possible. The last year has been exceptionally challenging for the HR, especially when it comes to talent recruiting, acquisition. But, you know, we have still been able to, using the fact that Bowie is a pretty good place to work, and I would say a great place to work, when he looks at the way we look after our employees, we've been able to fight through this exceptionally difficult times with a really low unemployment rate and a lot of competition for talent. And so we've been able to hire people, as you noticed through the notes I've sent you all on Fridays. And of course, our police department has been able to acquire new officers also. So it's very taxing, but it's very it's been working. We also had we did an excellent job on our transition to telework as a result of the COVID-19. We have 6 out of our 7 departments utilize telework in the city. 58 employees have been approved. We have a telework policy. 58 employees have approved telework, and the staff averages about 2.5 telework days per week, and it's been very efficient for us. And so the objectives for 2022 are migrate to automated open enrollment process and platform by October 31st, 2021. This objective was completed. B, to establish and implement a formal citywide teleworking policy by January 31st, 2022. We completed that, and I signed it, and it's been implemented, and it's working well, as I just mentioned. Establish employee training and development tracking by June 30th, 2022. We're working on acquiring a new system for this. We're on target for this. There are some negotiations that need to go forward, and sometimes you never know how that works out, but we expect to have this completed by June 30th. If not, we'll reestablish this as an objective for next year. Conduct 8 virtual employee wellness activities. So far, the HR department has conducted 4 of 8 wellness activities, and one of them is a mental health week during May in recognition of Mental Health Awareness Month. A virtual identity theft seminar will be held in June. An online seminar with Care First to recognize men's health in June, and also work with the healthcare provider Care First to develop a staff wellness committee. So we think we're on track for D also. Looking at the workload and performance indicators, we have our projections for 2023 are similar to 2022, except for the number of applications we expect to receive. We see a lower number this year because we reject fewer vacancies, but you never know how that turns out. And otherwise, the numbers are comparable. For 2023, one objective is to streamline all new employees' onboarding process through the use of the HR management information system that I mentioned we're trying to work through. Develop and implement the new managers training program by June 30th, 2023. What that is one of the things that I've observed in this organization and a couple of the places that I worked is when people transition from being a line worker to being a supervisor, they often don't get the training that they need so they'll know what they're doing. In my Army experiences, every time I took on a job, I went to a school before, so I was educated, then I got my experience. So we're gonna make sure that we do a better job of training newly hired supervisors so they'll understand the intricate aspects of leadership and management and the newness of that, because it's different, and things you can't do, you can't say, and there are things that, and your workload increases, of course. And we're gonna conduct 8 employee wellness activities next year also. The HR department has 6 people in there. That's the director, the senior administrator, human resource generalist, there are 3 and executive office assistants, and they are fully staffed presently and at 6 people. The majority of the expenses there are for salary, wages, and fringe benefits. We use contractual services for, and also professional services and recruitment has a significant expense because it requires advertising in one publication and another, and you have to be vigorous with your advertising to be competitive, and that's the only way to say it, to get the best people. And so that concludes the HR division. Are there any questions about them? If there aren't any questions, we'll move to the elections, page 57. This activity provides administrative, secretarial, and clerical services to the city elections, voters registration, record keeping, and furnishes voting and registration information to Bowie residents and other governmental bodies and agencies. The objective of this activity are to encourage all eligible residents of the city of Bowie to register and vote in all city elections, provide adequate information to residents, and continually improve and update the city's voting regulations and records. The objective for 2022 was to work with the County Board of Elections to update the voter registration and city street list as homes are built and properties are annexed into the city by June 30th, 2022. This is ongoing work with the county throughout the year, and we expect to meet our objectives for this year. And as you can see, in 2023, there will be a continuous objective to work with the County Board of Elections to update a voter registration as we get into next year, which is a voting election year for us in particular. Update the candidates' election handbook in preparation for the 2023 election by June of 2023. There are no significant budget changes here, and we have no significant expenditures this year because it's not an election year. Any questions regarding the elections? Okay. Well, all right. The legal services. This office on page 58 provides legal services and advice to the city council and city staff. The city attorney attends council meetings, represents the city in legal proceedings, both before the courts and administrative agencies, reviews contracts, leases, and covenants, and prepares ordinances and resolutions. The office also provides advice to the city and state legislation where required. The city retains several law firms with differing specialties, such as matters as bond issues or IRS tax issues. Separate legal counsel is also retained to support the Ethics Commission, the Board of Personnel Appeals, Communications legislation, and the cable franchise renewal process. The city is also represented without cost beyond the payment of premiums by attorneys appointed by the local government insurance trust to represent the city in connection with the defense of certain civil actions. There are no significant changes here. The workload and performance indicators have not changed. We spoke with the current city attorney and we reviewed our other potential legal expenses, and we determined that the amount of money, which is $200,000, is sufficient to meet the objectives and to meet the mission for FY 2023. Are there any questions regarding legal services? Well, if there are none, we'll go to the communications division. This division is responsible for providing residents with current information on city events, services, and policies through monthly newsletters, press releases, the city's website, social media, and I should put, that should be squared if I use the term social media, because that's a very extensive job, and cable television. It also broadcasts the city council's meetings and special events. The objectives for fiscal year 2022 was to work on the branding process, and of course we all participated in the RFP. You all authorized the branding to pick the consultant, and that process is ongoing, and we expect that to be done by the end of the fiscal year. Be there, work with the information tech department to refresh website content and appearance of city's website to be consistent with the new brand in 2030, on June 30th, 2022. This objective is a bit on hold, waiting for the results of the branding endeavor, and then we will kick in, because it would be inefficient to do anything before that, because it all may have to change. But we are prepared to implement this once you all decide on what and are approve the branding, the results of the branding initiative. Promote Alert Bowie is another objective as an important means for staying informed about city affairs and work to increase registrations by at least 5%. The goal's been met. The subscriptions will increase approximately 8% by end of FY 2022. Upgrade the audiovisual and broadcast equipment here in the council chambers. You all approved a contractor for that. We went through an RFP process, and that is ongoing. However, we are, if I can use the word, victims of the supply chain issues, and we're waiting parts, certain components that our contractor needs to finish the job. And but we expect it to happen, but that's sort of out of our control, just like many other supply chain issues are. The workload and performance indicators, when you look at the communications division of the city manager's office, they're always going up, and it's perpetual. Communications is one of those divisions where, you know, they experience mission creep, right? Is what I mean by that is that you approve a budget and with a certain number of FTEs and a certain number of line items, but of all the divisions and departments in the city, they get more unplanned assignments in the course of the year. For example, this year we added Coursera, which was critical, what communications was critical to. The Rally Against Hate, they write however many numerous speeches for the mayor, which is their job, but you never know when they're coming. Candidate forums, youth council town hall, water filter program. We sent out mailers to everybody about that. And the latest was the bike ride Father's Day human trafficking situation. And the reason I bring that up is because I would like to amend my proposal for this department to include a reclassification and a full-time status of the communications analyst in the communications division. And that's the memo you have on your desk. I should have done this, I did not, and I'm officially making an amendment to that in my presentation to you, that in order to deal with the ever-increasing requirement and capacity of communications, which is one of the things we do really well in the city, if I do say so myself, we need to make this particular position a full-time position so that we can keep up with all the things that are assigned to the communications division and all the things that we know that are coming. I'll continue and look at the objectives for next year. Expand the field production offerings to broadcast live from at least one city-sponsored event each month. If in-person events are still limited by the pandemic, add a virtual program. For the record, I mean, it's my intent, unless I'm told differently, we're going to proceed with Bowie Fest, the Memorial Day Parade, the International Fest, and Old Town combination. You know, so the communications division will be busy helping with that, of course. Establish cross-functional outreach team that will meet quarterly to share information and plan a coordinated approach to all city communications. The team will also review and update the 2017 communications plan that was authored in June the 30th as a result of the marketplace situation. Some of us might remember. Integrate the city's newly articulated vision and brand logo into all communications, and that will be a major task. As you might understand, this will also include regular training on the use of the brand, auditing all print and electronic materials for brand consistency, and developing new marketing material that promote Bowie. Of course, that's dependent on the decision of the council about what the brand will be after you get your briefing from the consultant. 4, expand each reach to young adult residents on social media platforms such as YouTube and Instagram through the use of more short videos and visually appealing posts. Increase subscribership on each platform by at least 10% by June of the 30th, 2023. So there is a significant budget change. I just presented that to you, and that would make their numbers 6.7, correct?
Yes, I didn't put that also.
4 times more, 6.6.
6.6 full FTEs, once we make that adjustment, if you approve the budget the way I presented it. This is a people-focused division, as you can see with the salaries and fringe benefits. But we do spend money on advertising, printing, and communications. Mailings is a significant expense. And we find also that that's a very effective way to get the word out. That's what we did regarding the water filtration. There was a mailing going out to everybody associated with that. So, does anybody have any questions about communications division of the city manager's office?
Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry.
I do as well. I can go after Councilman Wolfley.
All right, thank you. Quick question on the work to refresh the website. The changeover from .org to .gov, will that occur at the same time as the refresh?
Yes, it will.
Excellent, thank you. All right, very good. And just as a matter of comment on your request for the additional, I think that's a great idea. We have an abundance of projects that always creep up throughout the course of the year, and they always involve outreach for the community. So I do want to actually take a moment to say thanks to the folks that did such a good job on the candidate forum. That was one of those things that came up, was not in anybody's plan, it wasn't in anybody's budget in terms of the man hours and so forth, but staff did a fantastic job with that and was well received with the community, so thank you. I think that's just another example of the needs that we have on an ongoing basis, so thank you all.
I was particularly impressed with Wilder's management of the timing signs to keep
Yes.
everybody on course there. That was, and they were all listening, watching it too, so.
Maybe we could put buzzers, electronic little buzzers to put on people's seats to encourage them, and so long as you don't put them on the seats up here, we're okay.
I got a quick question. Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem? Okay, thank you. Quick question. Under the field production offerings to broadcast live from at least one city-sponsored event, what medium would you use? Is that a Facebook Live, or what does that entail?
Facebook Live is what we've been using for those kind of things, and we just go right out immediately at the event. We could also do Instagram that way as well, Instagram Reels.
Okay, thank you. And you've gotten pretty good viewership on that, have you noticed?
Yeah, we did it. We tried recently for a small event, the Possum Social. We broadcast live from that, and it actually generated a good bit of interest for a small event. So you never know what's going to strike people's fancy, but pets are usually a good gamble.
True. All right, thank you.
Councilwoman Ndebamadi, did you have something to add?
Yeah, thank you so much. I just have a couple of questions. The first question is, it's going to come from page 60, number 4. I see on here we talked about expanding outreach to young adult residents on social media platforms. Are the mediums that we have listed on this list, are those all the platforms that we're going to be going through, or are we considering other platforms outside of Instagram and YouTube?
We have already started with TikTok as well, so we are continuing to expand. And
Okay, awesome. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Is that it, Councilwoman?
No, that wasn't it. I didn't know if she was still done. I didn't know if she was still talking.
No, I think correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Cooper, you answered the question.
I'm finished.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay. Are there plans with that to integrate I don't know if I see it here, listed here yet. Are there plans to integrate the youth council in that strategy at all?
Yes, actually, that's why we started it. We had them produce, we did a kind of a traditional promo video for the Youth Council Town Hall, and then immediately after, we had them shoot a lighter, more informal video for TikTok, and that was our first foray into TikTok. So I think it went well, and we will continue to expand that and look at different ways. We were brainstorming about that the other day at our meeting.
Okay, awesome. I think that's great. Okay, so my second question is going to be from page 61, advertising services. It says that we focus a lot on paid print and publication of the spotlight in the newspaper. Do we have any plans to focus on more, I guess you would say, advertise, like more media advertising, not necessarily TV ads or anything like that, but just like more so ads online in that angle? Because I think what I'm finding too is that if we are trying to capture multiple audiences, sometimes it's a bit challenging for those who don't pay attention to more so print type things like mail or really engage with that medium. So do we have plans to expand outside of that to more of a digital footprint?
Yes, we're already doing that with Facebook ads and Facebook events that we boost.
Okay.
And I expect that we'll get into some Google ads this year as well.
Oh, that's awesome. So is that budget already allocated for here, or is that separate?
That's part of the advertising. And honestly, social media advertising is just not that expensive, so you get a good bang for your money. I mean, to advertise, to boost an event on Facebook for 2 weeks usually costs us under $50. So
Oh, that's awesome.
you don't want to inundate people with advertising, but we're using it for at least a few events a month. And in an event like, in a month like May and June, we'll use it definitely more than that.
Okay, awesome. I love that. I think that's great. I think I was looking at the reclassification, the memo that was sent out. I'm just curious, will this person, the analyst, will they focus more on like research, or will they focus more on like external marketing? Just curious, because I know the title is analyst, but I may have a different understanding of what an analyst actually is.
My goal is to have everyone be able to do pretty much everything so that the parts are interchangeable. And then we'll sort of go with people's strengths. One of the things that I'd like to do a lot more of is making decisions based on metrics and planning based on what we see, what's successful, what kind of post works. Well, then we should do more of those kind of posts. So this person, it's an introductory level position for this, so it kind of remains to be determined. The work will get done of the kind that you're talking about. It may not be by the person in this position now who's part-time.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think this is honestly a great move, because I think with all of the stuff that's coming up out of the council, like Councilman Wolfley mentioned sporadically, like I do think that we do need a little bit more of that support. And as we look to get the community more engaged, especially like with a lot of the stuff that's going to come up with branding and the refresh, I think this is super spot on and super timely. The only thing that I would love to see from this, or from some of these objectives listed here, the outreach for the 2023 election, I would love to see us like kind of really focus on the youth as well, and like maybe partner with this person, focus on driving that through some of those social media mediums that you talked about with Instagram and TikTok, and maybe if that's like, you know, doing online lives with Sonia so they could educate the young people on like what it means to vote, like that kind of thing. Then on the Coursera, just continuing to boost those types of programs that come out. And then I think another thing that's super key is the grants division and community services in Green Bowie. I'll give you an example. We were at the youth town hall the other day, and one of the requests from one of the children who so bravely spoke up were, you know, it would be nice to have more one-on-one conversations for mental health. And Wendy was there and she heard it, and that was really great. But like really marketing that and helping people understand, like we have those services, but maybe they just don't know because it's not always at the forefront, or typically when you're looking for certain services, you don't go on a government website and say like, let me see if the government offers that. So like probably getting a little bit more proactive. And I know you've been doing that diligently and doing a great job, but like trying to figure out, are there other creative ways that we can get the word out there with the expanding the use of Alert Buoy, and just making sure that people understand some of the grants that we have available, some of the initiatives that we're doing through Green Buoy, and some of the community services options that are already out there, just making sure they understand that a little bit more. So those are like the things that I would love to see from that. But I think it's really timely, and it's really great that you guys proposed this.
What I would say to that is that one of our goals with having more staff that are proficient in social media is that we want to improve engagement. I think we're fairly one way right now. And so it is that kind of discussion that you're talking about, or the question and answers, that where I think with extra people and with, you know, we've come a long way with it, that we will be able to do more of those kind of things that take a little more time and are a little different.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing that's been really great is you've done a phenomenal job with your team. So I know that we reached our target on Alert Buoy signups, which is fantastic. I would love to get to a world where every single Bowie resident is like signed up. Like when you move into the community, it's like an auto sign up or something like that. But I know we can't really do that for data privacy reasons. But I think you've done a great job. So really appreciative, and thanks for the hard work.
Thank you.
Councilmember Gardner, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just wanted to take this moment to just echo the sentiment of Councilmember Wolfrey when he stated the support that staff gave for the forum, the candidates forum. I just wanted to publicly say thank you to Una Cooper, Wilder Hernandez, Joan, and Caroline for their involvement. Everything went according and without any issues whatsoever. Residents were very happy, and to meet many of the candidates that are running for office. So I wanted to publicly say I thank you all for doing such a fine job.
All right, any other questions from members? All right, City Manager.
All right, thank you. The next subject we'll discuss will be the Business Operations Division, as listed on page 63 in the budget. The Business Operations Division handles critical and high-profile administrative management duties, including negotiating and monitoring the city cables, franchise agreements, telecommunication agreements, and annexation agreements. The Business Operations Division is also responsible for overseeing the city's utility and energy efficiency projects, as well as negotiating and monitoring procurement contracts with various organizations. The division serves as a liaison to various federal, state, county, governmental agencies and departments, as well as the Maryland utility companies. The division manages various unique and sensitive issues as directed by the city manager. In addition, the division provides central support to all city offices in areas of office supply, printing, and graphics, as well as mail services. 5 years ago, or 5.5 years ago, when we did a reorganization and we shifted from the assistant to the city manager, we took that position and sort of did broke it up, and we developed the business operation division. What I saw initially when I got here is there was a significant need in the city of Bowie for staff, there to be a senior member of the staff who has viable and reliable contacts with various government agencies, Maryland National Park and Planning, WSSC, BG&E, and all of these utilities and agencies, the county who have a DPI, who has an impact on our residents, so that in many cases we can utilize this division to report and or act on the behalf of the residents to resolve their issues. And that's worked out very well for us. In coordination with the IT division, the objective is to, the business operation has continued the process of upgrading and expanding the city's fiber optic redundancy network architecture. In FY22, the city continues to enhance the use of technology to improve performance, increase network connectivity, improve public safety and emergency preparedness communications, provide better customer service, and improve delivery of core services on an ongoing basis. They've completed stage 1 of this redundant fiber project. It is ongoing, and it is the fiber optic network architecture provided by extending the fiber to major city facilities by spring of 2022. And so that will keep us in connection with fiber optics, which is high tech, of course. B there, continued the Comcast and Verizon cable franchise agreement negotiations. Negotiations with Comcast agreement in collaboration with Prince George's County, that has completed, but the agreements haven't been re-signed, and so we won't say it's done because things change. Council approval of a renegotiated cable franchise agreement. We're hoping for the summer of this year, and we'll see how that works out. The INET agreement has been drafted. The City Council approved it, or expected to approve it, or have an opportunity to approve it in the summer of 2022. And there's been active participation in the revision and renegotiation of its franchise agreements. Of course, you know, with transition from one federal administration to another, the idea of franchise agreements and what one group of people can expect, that changed with the new administration. So there are some adjustments there. Continue the smart energy project to reduce the consumption of energy in the city facilities. The objective is expected to be accomplished by June the 30th. The energy efficiency improvement program are partially completed. There have been design and permitting complications. Projects should be completed by the fall of 2022. Business operations has completed work with the community services to identify and prioritize energy efficiency projects for FY 2023. Business operations continues to chair the SSC and work across departments to support sustainable practices, including expansion of public EV charging stations, green procurement policies, and green education. And this is ongoing also. Under D, research and evaluate to create a smart cities task force to determine how smart cities policies and best practices can be applied. During the Smart Cities Task Force has not been established yet. That, of course, that would require council approval. I will say this, that while staff was doing the research for this particular objective, we also discovered just how many smart cities initiatives and actions are currently being conducted by city staff. So we are really close, and we're still working on the task force, and we'll be presenting that to you all before the end of the fiscal year. If we go to 64, you look at the workload and performance indicators, very similar from one year to the next. For 2023, the objectives are to coordinate with the IT department and CTC and business operations will continue processing and upgrading and expanding the city's fiber optic redundancy network, and progress to what we mentioned to the phase 2, indicating that we're completing phase 1 now. Number 2, in coordination with IT department, business operations is employing energy management software in the fall of 2022. Also, and number 3 there, we're going to coordinate with Tesla Solar and business operations. We're working on stage 2 of the solar array project, which will be expanding the solar array system by 2.5 megawatts, from 2.5 megawatts to 5.0 megawatts system, with an objective for the summer of 2024. Okay, so the expenditures, mental workload, we have 5 people in this division: the business operations management, the executive office assistant, business operations specialist. We currently, we moved the part-time guards to there, and so there's also a receptionist. What we intend to do with the security guards is to, instead of we're going to shift the funding for the contractual people and hire part-timers, and we think we'll get more out of it, and it'll give us better command and control. So that's our intent for that. Salary and wages are a big part of the operations here. Printing and binding, they do that for everybody in the city. Down at the bottom, $68,900 is for the central support to the city departments for stationery and office and computer supplies, copy machine management. That's, of course, copy machines have to be, the maintenance of them is managed by this division also. And of course, all postage is processed through, if you look at page 66, where we have a $100,000 expenditure. The capital outlay there is the $1,045,000. That's the money we get from our cable franchise agreement to use for iNet upgrades. So, any questions about the business operations?
Yes, Mr. City Manager. Quick question, well, it may not be a quick question, we'll see. The 5G requirements that we have, I know there was a bunch of litigation going on, and how is that tying into the, for the franchise agreements and negotiations? Because I know that we probably have some workload that would be associated. I know it's not tied into it as in part of Verizon and so forth, but I would assume it's in your offices, in this office, that we would have to manage the 5G requirements or the relationship with.
You're talking about the towers that people
Yes.
want?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead, Maddie.
Yeah, so the 5G, all of the legislation that happened with the 5G obviously is related to small cells. A couple of years ago, when that came out, what we did is we created a couple of standards to be able to bring in 5G into the city. Unfortunately, we have no control over it in a certain way. It's all legislated by FCC.
Yep.
Right? But what we did is we created row agreements. We worked with the attorney. She helped us to create those. We recently signed one with AT&T.
Oh.
Oh, yes. We also have just a whole set of policies and procedures, so when they do come in, they have to follow this, but keeping within the FCC, obviously, their regulations.
Well, one of the things that occurred several years ago when the administration changed was the FCC, in my professional opinion, made a lot of advantages, gave a lot of advantages to the cell operator, and took away our potential to control who comes in and where. So we adapted to that. As Maddie said, we have, we established a set of guidelines for the application process, and fortunately, we were not taken advantage of, that I'm aware of. So, So people cried wolf a little much, but the companies did not, it was not their intention, by my observation of the evidence, that they intended to take advantage of it. It just could have happened. So of course, there's an expectation that with the new administration and a different head at FAA or FCC, maybe that'll adjust. We don't know. We'll see.
So right now, you have kind of that workload built into to kind of the work plan if things were to come up.
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. At some point in time, can you fill me in on that AT&T plans and agreements? That would be great.
Okay,
Just an email is fine.
okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Any other questions about business operations?
Yeah, Mr. City Manager, I was just gonna ask, Maddie, when you send out the update on AT&T, could you send it to the entire council as well? That would be helpful.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, we will.
Thank you.
Well, if there are no other questions about business operations, we'll move to the city clerk's budget on page 67. The city clerk's office provides support services and assistance to the city council and the city manager. This office, in conjunction with the Board of Elections, is responsible for making and makes arrangements for the conduct, administration, preparation, and operation of the city's elections, as well as an update to the maintenance of the voter registration rolls. Additionally, the office maintains and updates the city codes, makes arrangements and preparations for the city council meetings, including setting up the city council agendas, taking notes, transcribing minutes. The city clerk office maintains official records and documents for the city, answers inquiries from outside agencies like FOIA requests and that sort of thing, citizens and government bodies on behalf of the city. The office also arranges the interviews for committee applicants for the city council, prepares and maintains the city council calendars, hearing dates, schedules, city committee rosters, as well as financial disclosure / conflict of interest data. City clerk office is also responsible for countersigning official city documents, maintaining the city seal, setting up meetings for the city council, assisting the staff in researching projects, as well as gathering material for city council packages and performing other related tasks as needed. Just as a matter of fact, this is an exceptional workload, and we acquired an additional assistant for our current city clerk, which helpful, very helpful. The objective for 2022 were work with the committee staff, liaisons to ensure that they're posting committee meetings and agendas as required and following procedures for meeting minutes to be completed by 30 June 2022. This objective has been completed. Update the city's record retention policies with city departments and Maryland State Archives. Create 2 additional records retention policies, Information Tech and Police Department, to be completed by June 30th, 2022. This objective is 90% complete, and of course we still have 2 months to go. Go through all paper and electronic records to maintain, transfer, or destroy records in accordance with the records retention policy currently adopted, to be completed by June 30, 2022. This objective would be moved to FY 2023 budget in order to proceed with the updated records retention policy that will come into effect on June the 30th. Okay, so the workload and performance indicators have not changed, other than the expenditure per capita went from 3.62 to 4.01. The objectives for fiscal year 2023 have all departments begin to go through all paper and electronic records to maintain, transfer, or destroy records in accordance with the new 2020 approved records retention policy that was mentioned before. To do that all before June of next year. Update rules and regulations for city committees and present the council for review and adoption by October 20th of this year. Briefing for the city committees and staff liaisons on new rules and regulations for the city committees by December 30th, 2022. There are no significant budget changes for the city clerk's division. There are 2 people, city clerk and administrative assistant, excuse me, and the executive office associate, pardon me. And there are 2 people in that department, and their larger expense, of course, is salary and fringe benefits. We have a significant amount of money in for travel and training for the clerk and professional development for the clerk and her assistant. And there we need commodities for council meetings, tapes, minutes, books, all that sort of thing. Are there any questions regarding the city clerk's budget? Okay. All right then. So the next one then would be on page 70, the economic development page. And the mission of Economic Development Office is to increase the employment in non-residential tax base of the city through business retention, expansion, and attraction, tourism promotion, community development, redevelopment, and revitalization, and other business technical assistance. This office serves as a liaison to the business community and to the city's Economic Development Committee and supports local delivery of business assistance programs to various chambers of commerce, regional economic development entities, state highways, departments, and other agencies for economic and community development matters. The office is responsible for the implementation of economic development strategies adopted by the City Council. The first objective for 2022 should not have been left in the book because they did not get funding for that particular person, but you'll see on significant budget changes as we've added, I proposed an economic development specialist to focus on business retention in this budget. B is a continuous operations objective where we are continuing to diversify and expand Bowie's economic base by supporting business attraction. These efforts will support business attraction for office, flex properties, and at existing commercial locations in the city. The efforts will continue joint efforts with the county to attract computer science and technical businesses to the city. Mentioned here as far as advertising, locate in Bowie. Advertising was placed in several business publications and to remind businesses about Bowie as a business location. This year's program included ads in the shopping center business, city biz list, ongoing research of commercial real estate broker communities continues throughout the organization with NAIOP and Coronet Global. In Ovalon, which is one of our largest employers, met the criteria doing this for the fourth $100,000 incentive payment in a 10-year incentive agreement with them that keeps their corporate headquarters here in Bowie across from the Bowie Town Center. Staff continue to assist commercial office brokers, landlords, and others with their efforts to convert interested prospects into Bowie building tenants. Prospect activities has remained low due to COVID-19, obviously, and hopefully we'll break out of that. Staff continues to use internal hotel owner-managed email list to provide timely information updates to our hotels during the COVID-19 crisis. C there, continue efforts on shopping center revitalization and retail tenant attraction and retention. Of course, we're making an effort with that now with the new person we want to bring on. The city continued to work with other retail center owners and brokers to attract tenants to vacant retail space and to assist the effort to revitalize the retail centers. Retail-specific location advertising was placed in nationally in the shopping center business magazine. This advertising program identifies Bowie as a desirable and profitable retail location. D there, continue to provide oversight and coordination for small business growth and assistance. The program provides oversight for the Bowie Business Innovation Center and coordinates small business service providers with them for resources including training. Staff provided oversight to the Bowie BIC in several ways. The city staff member has always held a seat on the board. That current board member is Mr. Jesse Buggs. Additionally, the staff reviewed reports submitted by Bowie BIC and made questions about clarity. And Bowie BIC and the city, of course, has a great partnership. The city continued to receive small business assistance and counseling services from the Maryland Procurement and Technological Program, PTAP, the Capital Region Small Business Development Center, SBDC, and the Maryland's Women Business Center, which is MWBC. These assistance services continue to be provided by using virtual platforms until we all come out of COVID-19, the COVID crisis. E there, continue to provide technical assistance, support citizens, groups' efforts to establish an art and entertainment district in Old Town Bowie. Staff has supported this successful in September 2021 event, and we are working toward another event that will be joint with the International Fest. I continue to support the city's Economic Development Committee, and our staff is a liaison and it helps do a lot of administrative work for that organization. And of course, they're available to make recommendations to the council. Our workforce indicators are very similar to last year, a few deviations. If you go to the next year's goals, we begin implementation of council adopted economic development strategy, which we expected to present to you all May the 2nd, correct? Right. Right. And establish a formal business retention program to assist in retaining Bowie businesses in Bowie, and that's going to be the mission of Mr. King and his specialists as we seek to help people stay here and survive as business and thrive, as long as they are what the residents want, of course. We intend to hire a consultant to prepare a revitalization plan for Old Town Bowie. We intend to cross departmental staff and continue to provide technical assistance and support to citizen group efforts to establish the Art and Entertainment District in Old Town Bowie and coordinate city staff to involvement as needed. Continue to diversify and expand Bowie's economic base by supporting business attraction. Continue efforts for retail tenant attraction and retention. Continue to provide city oversight and coordination with small business growth, in particular stay connected to Bowie BIC. The outgoing director will be here to give a briefing of their year within a few, and at the end of this, in the second work session, second May, council meeting in May. And so,
That'll be your first meeting in June.
I stand corrected, that's the first meeting in June. The significant budget changes here are that we'll be implementing the Economic Development Strategy and Action Plan, including starting a budget retention program and business retention program, and hiring an economic development specialist to focus on business retention, and that person will cost $106,057. That will give our Economic Development Office a FTE count of 2.4 people, those 2 full-time employees and a part-time, 4/10 of a number intern, which the interns are very helpful and they learn a lot too. Salaries and wages and fringe benefits are important. As you can see, we spend a lot of money on professional services, $343,000. Our contribution to Bowie BIC and and other agencies listed in that paragraph. And also, we have a travel training of $20,000 and $100,000 there set aside for the revolving loan program that this office administers. And of course, there are $82,000 worth of subscriptions to one entity or another that can help us with our economic development mission. Are there any questions for economic development?
Yes, Mr. City Manager, quick question. On the professional services, the 343, can someone share with me a breakout of what that is at some point? You can just shoot me an email with it or whatever. Thank you.
Yeah, Councilwoman Harrison?
Thank you. My question is regarding the Chambers of Commerce. Do we ever partner with the Bowie Chamber or the Prince George's County Chamber in any efforts with businesses in the city?
There have been no such partnerships recently.
Okay.
The Greater Bowie Chamber was a participant in the city grant done in partnership with the Bowie BIC in 2020. That was our COVID assistance program. But neither chamber has made a significant outreach, nor have they had any programs recently that have been something we would participate in. But that hides it. Economic development is not the only office in the city that does participate with chambers.
Right.
For example, the Community Services Department has the Youth Leadership Bowie program.
Okay.
That's one example of that. And we're looking forward to an evolving relationship with Greater Bowie Chamber. We had an opportunity to meet their new executive director this week, and her the task her board seems to have given her is to re-examine ways that they can become connected to things. So the answer is, as I just gave it this year. Next year it is likely to be a different answer.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Any other questions regarding economic development? All right then, if there aren't any, we are going to move to emergency management. Oh, you got it. Emergency Management Office plans and organizes and directs emergency management programs for the City of Bowie and coordinates the planning and organization and execution of local emergency management activities. This office represents the community on all emergency management matters and coordinates activities with other local, state, and federal nonprofit and private agencies. The Emergency Management Office also oversees the development, maintenance, and annual review of the city's emergency management plan and other emergency preparedness plans as required. In addition, the office establishes and maintains and runs the City Bowie's Emergency Operations Center when necessary. During an emergency, the Emergency Operations Office coordinates community resources, reports activities and conditions of state emergency management, and requests assistance as needed. The office also coordinates damage and assessment activities and reports and all damages and assessments to the county. One of the things that goes on here is our Emergency Operations Center is was certainly activated during COVID-19 and also transitioned, like many other offices did in the city, to the virtual EOC, which I observed and worked really well. When we have windstorms, snow plowing events, and other emergencies, outages and that sort of thing, that's when the emergency management, Lee and Stephanie would get into kicking the action and take charge and help coordinate the city's reaction to those events using Public Works, Parks and Grounds, coordination with the BG&E or other agencies, and of course the state and Prince George's County. So, and of course from at one point they almost outpaced IT as one of the most essential divisions in the city when we were transitioning to, in an effort to survive the COVID crisis. Additionally, the Emergency Management Office provides a variety of emergency services preparedness and emergency response training opportunities to groups, including classes on emergency preparedness, CPR, infectious disease control, and incident management, NIMS, if you all know familiar with that term. This office also coordinates with the Bowie Police Department on active shooter preparedness and response. Emergency Management Office is further responsible for the oversight of the city's purchase, training, and maintenance of automated external defibrillators with the acronym of AED. As a member of the Facility Security Working Group, the emergency manager works with the group to develop security processes and procedures and conduct regular facility and vulnerability assessments, coordinating site monitoring, security contract services for all city facilities. The city provides ongoing support to the Bowie Volunteer Department to assist in delivery of their services to the Bowie community. The emergency manager serves as a liaison between the department and the city management to ensure that both entities will work towards common goals. In FY 2022, developed a emergency action plan for each city-owned vehicle, on facility, excuse me. That was accomplished. That's been completed. Trained emergency operations center staff on the operations of the EOC by 30 June 2022. That was completed. Enhanced employee preparedness, public safety committee, green team knowledge by conducting quarterly training programs to include topics such as CPR, infectious disease control, opioid overdoses, emergency preparedness, and incident management. This is a continuous program for which we are on track in particular. Evaluate the location for automatic external defibrillators to determine if they are need to be expanded to additional city facilities, including city parks, and start replacing AEDs as they reach their expected life. So identify the need for AEDs at the water treatment plant. That AED has been ordered, and they will also be placed on the senior center buses. Conduct emergency management response related function or tabletop exercise by May the 30th. The tabletop exercise was conducted in November using a dam failure in the rear of the city hall. This exercise involved staff from various city departments and several supporting agencies. The next goal would be the security consultant identify gaps in physical and technical security. This objective was transferred to community services. The COVID-19 slowed us down on this, but we intend to crank this objective up and get on top of it in a more effective manner in the next few months. G, coordinate the COVID response for the city, including vaccinations. Obviously, we've done an excellent job here. They've coordinated 3 COVID booster vaccination clinics at the senior center, coordinated procurement, inventory control, ordering, and delivered COVID-19 PPE to all staff and all departments. And the EOC has maintained an enhanced status level for the entire fiscal year in support of COVID-19 response. If you move to page 76, you'll see that the workload indicators we project are higher than they were since we're coming out of COVID-19. So the objectives for next year will be continue to develop the emergency action plans for all city facilities, continue training for emergency operations center staff on operations of the EOC, enhance employee preparedness, public safety committee, green team knowledge by conducting quarterly training programs to include topics such as CPR, infectious disease control, opioid overdoses, emergency preparedness, incident command, and of course this is an ongoing objective. Conduct an emergency response related functional or tabletop exercise by end of May next year. Coordinate the COVID response for city vaccinations if the emergency continues, of course. Implement a multi-year emergency management training schedule to train staff on all hazard response, mitigation, recovery, and preparedness for June 30th, 2023. Obviously, the emergency management division is really busy. I propose to add a half of an FTE, specialist grade X114 at a cost of $33,581 to bolster the emergency management staff so that they can continue to deliver services during our normal operations and with the COVID-19 pandemic and whatever else is waiting for us around the corner. A large expense, of course, is for personnel. We have the 167. That includes our contribution to the Bowie Volunteer Fire Department, and that ends my presentation regarding this is emergency management, other than to say that there'll be 2.5 FTEs there if you approve this budget. Any questions regarding emergency management or the emergency management program?
I don't have a comment other than to extend my gratitude for a job well done throughout the pandemic so far. It's been a lot of effort, involved a lot of people, and we have, I think, performed exceptionally well here at the city. So thank you very much, and to all those involved.
Thank you, Councilman Wolfley.
And I want to echo that as well.
Thank you, Councilman Gardner.
Ditto. You don't have to say thank you, but appreciate you.
Exactly. We appreciate you greatly
Yeah.
and all that you do.
During the pandemic, the staff we were making adjustments every day. We had EOC meetings every day. And, you know, everybody was contributing, especially in the early phases in the essential employees. But I'd have to say the greatest adjustments were made by the emergency management team as they ramped up, and the IT department, who had to adjust from zero virtual to functionally virtual, and all that entails in a very short period of time. I'd like to transition now to the police department. As you can see.
Mr. City Manager.
Oh, you want to go back to that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
We forgot the city council section. Oh, okay. Well, I think the mayor is here, so I think we can go ahead and do that.
All right, city council, that is on page 51 of the Bowie's budget book. And for those on television land, the city council is the governing body of the city, elected by and responsible to the voters for the operation of the city. The city council is responsible for municipal policies. The council appoints the city manager, the city attorney, the board of supervisors of elections, all standing advisory committees, special task force groups, and study committees. For FY 2022, the city council had a goal to engage services, a professional contractor, begin to review and update the city code. This objective is being worked out between the city attorney and the city clerk and the related staff. They're at a 30% completion, and I suspect that I'm not sure we're going to make it on that one, but we'll be more than 50% complete, because that is a really arduous, time-consuming task. Be there with the city manager's office, conduct and update the city strategic plan in the first half of the fiscal year. Yeah, we're still working to reschedule that, and the assistant city manager will be communicating with you all to see if we can get that done before the 30th or early next year. We haven't established any objectives. Of course, you've got to establish your own. And it's the mayor, 6 council members equals 7 full-time or part-time employees or whatever. And the salaries are the major expense there. And there are professional services for legislative issues. The lobbyist was there, I believe, and subscriptions there to Maryland Municipal League, Council of Governments, Regional Environment Fund, and National League of Cities, Prince George's County Municipal Association, and Bowie Chamber are you split up to $115,900 in that respect. Therefore, I hand this over to the mayor if you all want to talk about this in any fashion.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to bring up a couple of things. We want to include the need to fund an environmental assessment. We want to talk about the racetrack property in this portion of the budget. Put in the need to fund an environmental assessment, including the $1.5 million that's in the state legislation to cover the cost or portion of the cost, whatever that cost might be, reimbursable for the assessment piece, and also include an objective and a page under capital improvement projects, as it will be a multi-year project.
Thank you, Councilwoman Harrison.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Dan?
Yes, so we do have legislation that was passed in 2020 that does authorize the state to reimburse us for up to $1.5 million worth of expenses. So that is something that we can certainly add in and include a capital page for that.
Right. And can you explain how that would work in regards to the assessment and getting the cost, the proposal that you and I talked about earlier?
So those funds have been authorized out, and it's our understanding they're being administered by the Stadium Authority. So we would need to obtain a quote for services to perform that work. We would want to provide that to the Stadium Authority and get pre-approval for any work that is done to ensure that we would be able to get those expenses reimbursed. But it is our understanding that those funds are available now, and we can begin to draw down on them. So as long as we allocate them through our budget as an anticipated revenue and expense, we can accommodate that in the next budget.
And we also talked about the bill, the Senate bill that includes the $3 million. We have to do some more research on how that money would be I guess, allocated or actually approved, because I don't think it's an approved amount at this point.
Yes, in previous legislation in terms of bond authorization, there were funds that were allocated that could be utilized for the racetrack. We would need to identify to see if that was continued on with bond authorization legislation this year in terms of a pre-authorization. But in the previous legislation that had been passed, it was anticipated for fiscal year 2023. So we would need to verify that those funds are available, and if not, work towards getting those included in the next legislative session.
Is there a way that we can document that in here so we don't lose track of those items?
We could include that into the capital page as anticipated revenue from the state of Maryland. So that way, on that capital page, we show funding sources. We could list that as the anticipated funding source for that activity.
Yes, if you look at all of the CIP pages have a description, and so we could put the fact that there's been a pre-authorization in for $3 million in there, and the fact that what our intent is to pursue it. So, yes.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. There's one other piece that I want to make sure that I want to just kind of share with my colleagues and ask for their approval moving forward, because I'd like you all to include this in your verbiage when you put it in under the city council or CIP, that we are establishing a steering committee to plan and implement this project. So I wanted to just kind of get a consensus from our colleagues if that's okay with you all moving forward. Yes? Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any objections. Does anyone else have any objections to that?
No, I don't have any either.
Okay, great. We've already started meeting. We have another meeting on this Friday, and this is a meeting between the city and, of course, Bowie State University. So this is, of course, a partnership moving forward. So we will work with staff and ask to have a city council resolution to establish the steering committee.
Very good. So what we'll do based on the consensus is that we will make note of this in the city council's page as an objective regarding the environmental assessment, and with the intent to get that completed in this next fiscal year. Also, we'll establish a CIP page which reflects that action and shows in the summary that the money's coming from the state of Maryland.
Sounds great.
Okay.
And this Friday, we're just kind of, for your information, we're working towards establishing a vision for our group for the steering committee, so you can kind of include that kind of verbiage in here as well.
Wilco.
And I like to say something just on a personal note. I like to thank both Mayor Adams and Councilmember Harrison for their involvement in taking leadership and representation and representing the council, the city of Bowie. I want to thank you both for doing that and bringing back information to us. It's greatly appreciated and definitely well noted.
Thank you.
Hey, I like that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Councilman Gardner. Thank you, Councilwoman Harrison, for bringing that forward. But I'd also just like to add a strong thank you to staff, and particularly Joe Minor, for all of his support on this. And he's really been instrumental in helping us. And we really look forward to moving forward with that. I think Councilwoman Harrison did a good job of summing that up. And we look forward to making this happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right then. Are there any other questions or comments regarding your budget? If there aren't, we'll proceed with the police department on page 79. The police department protects the lives and property of our citizens and businesses while focusing on proactive community engagement, trust building, and responsiveness. Duties include patrol, responding to calls for service, identifying and apprehending suspected criminals, traffic safety enforcement, along with community service and events. The department strives to identify and adjust to community needs through communication, encouragement, and partnership. The Communications Center serves as a vital link between the officers, the residents, and other departments. The department received certifications on accreditations for law enforcement agencies, CALEA, in November the 13th of 2020, which I might say is no small feat. The department currently has a traffic unit, investigative unit, and community services unit, which includes the school resource officer. The department continues to work in partnership with Prince George's County Police Department. This partnership includes sharing training opportunities, joint initiatives, and information sharing. The Prince George's County Police Department provides follow-up and investigation services with the city for rape, murder, as well as some technical support in areas of drug analysis, fingerprint identification, and special operations such as helicopter unit, hostage and barricade incidences. The objectives for fiscal year 2022 were create a series of information videos explaining various police procedures and processes to the public, how a ticket is adjudicated, an example in how complaints are handled. This objective was complete. B was to implement a active bystander by law enforcement called ABLE to all police department personnel, which is taught in partnership with the Georgetown Law School. This program is designed to prevent misconduct, increase internal accountability, improve officer safety, and promote health and wellness. This is to be completed at the end of June this year. Assume investigative responsibility for Prince George's County, from Prince George's County for commercial and residential robberies by June 30, 2022. This objective was also completed. We don't project for the police department in workload indicators, but as you can see, in most areas, the numbers were within a 10% proximity, except for moving violations, and they were down in 2021 compared to the year before, and the speed camera infractions were up in 21 as opposed to 2020. The objectives for next year are create a three-year strategic plan for the department that reflects the goals of the city and provides stability for future leadership. That's to be completed by 30 June 2023. Establish a criminal justice information services CJIS training room at the Ken Hill Center to enable Bowie police officers to recertify without having to depend on an outside agency. This also this is going to be completed in January 2023. Establish a second Bloodhound K9 officer to assist with missing persons and suspect finding, and also could be completed in June the 30th. There are no significant changes to the budget. The full-time FTEs in the police department are FTEs 86.5. That includes the chief of police, deputy chief, 1 captain, 1 lieutenant, 9 sergeants, 4 lieutenants, excuse me, corporals, master police officers, and various other individuals to the point of an 86.5 number. With a department that large there, so 8,600,000 in the salaries and wages, 4,700,000 in fringe benefits. We have significant professional services expense with the speed camera cost and other contractual services which are outside the capability of the city's operation. Travel and training is significant with the paramilitary organization to keep them proficient in what they do. Communications, telephones, repair and maintenance of our police cars, that's important, that's mandatory. And of course, materials and supplies, computers, printers, telephones, all the things that our officers need to do their job. Are there any questions regarding the police department's budget and or expenditures or objectives?
Yes, Mr. City Manager. On the issue of traffic enforcement, speed cameras, Chief, you know I'm always keen to get an update on where we are with the contractual and logistical efforts to get additional traffic cameras in place pursuant to the new legislation.
Certainly. If you remember our previous conversations, we were having some issues finding an economically sensible solution for this particular contract with Conduit. So what we've done is we're still with Conduit for our school zones, and we're looking at a T&E or test and evaluation period with another company for the rest of the residential areas. Once we look at the data from there and from what they're going to be putting forth free of charge to us, it'll be strictly warnings, of course, but we'll have an idea of the volume, we'll have an idea of how their back end and their system works. Once that T&E process is done, we will put it on RFP and get a second different contract for the residential areas, and we'll be presenting that once that's done. The ordinance that required to put the cameras up in the residential areas was just approved by Karen Ruff. It's at Alyssa's level for secondary approval. As soon as that's done, we'll be bringing that ordinance in front of you, and then we'll begin the process of setting up the testing and evaluation period with the second company.
Excellent. So timing, you think?
I am hoping, as soon as we get it in front of you, I imagine maybe a 30-day, 2 months at the most turnaround to get proper signage, contract signed, and everything in place. So after the ordinance is approved and put in place, I imagine no more than 60 days, we should be up and running and collecting data and issuing warnings.
Excellent. Thank you. As we get closer, please contact me because I may be able to provide you a few locations.
I might be able to guess a couple already. With the budget, we did put a conservative number in for the second contract and the additional cameras. So we are ready to roll once we get that T&E done and we look at the data and figure out the RFP process and the best fiscally sound way to go, given the data that we're collecting.
Excellent. And just for the record, and I know you've heard this from me before, but I just want to reinforce it. To me, this is not about collecting money. To me, this is about slowing people down.
I totally agree.
And it will be on roads that would seem like they make no sense to do, but they really are. It's really near and dear to a lot of people's hearts.
It is, and if you have absolutely nothing else to do, you can watch some chief chats where I do cover some of that, and it is definitely not a gotcha program. We'll be ample warning, ample signage. So if you get one, it's going to be your own fault.
Excellent. Pardon me. Next question I have for you is FTE counts. We're at 86, projected for 86. Where are we with regard to onboard numbers?
So yeah, there's two different numbers. There's what we're slotted for, there's what we have, and there's what we dress.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 3 openings, but outside of that 3 openings, I have 7 additional people that are in a non-full duty status, given injuries and things like that. So if you look total, we're down about 10 people. 3 of those are actual openings. Some are in the academy. Some are just in other non-duty statuses.
All right. And the quest to fill the 3 continues, I suspect.
Yeah, we have actually some, I think we have maybe 4 in the background process right now that have survived up to the poly. The poly is usually what knocks a lot of people out, or the polygraph is usually what knocks a lot of people out, so we're pretty hopeful. The county has the county has an academy class starting in May sometime, or beginning of June. And so, and just for clarification, that the 86, out of that 86, 67 are sworn. The rest are civilian and call takers and dispatchers.
Very good. And the openings, are they all sworn?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, now, I'm sorry, I do have 2 openings left in dispatch, but we have some people in background for that as well. So our recruiting folks and our background people have been hustling to try to get as many people as we can in front of us.
Okay. And on the call center side, how many do we have total?
Total is, I'm going to have to, excuse me.
Well, it's probably right here.
Yeah, court's indulgence. Yeah, with the, so we have one supervisor, we have the communication supervisor, and then 12 other dispatchers / supervisors.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. And again, thank you for all your good efforts. Looking forward to the results on the traffic stuff, but also thank you for the support for the community. A lot of good outreach that goes on, and there's a lot of positive feedback. I think the relationship building efforts that you have engaged with your team really does pay off. So thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Are there questions for the police department or about the police department's budget? If there aren't, then we'll proceed. We'll thank the chief for coming by, and we'll move to the finance department. The Finance Department functions to provide financial information needed for policy and administrative decisions. The finance information is used to assess the existing financial positions of the city as a whole or of a particular fund, program, department. And two, to forecast financial position over a given future time and to monitor and control the flow of revenues and expenditures so far as to maintain accountability for funds and to operate the city within legal and budgetary constraints. One objective was to maintain the city's certificate of achievement for financial reporting and distinguished budget presentation award. That objective was completed. We received that budget presentation award and with our for the adopted budget. To coordinate the annual budget process, and we are obviously decisively engaged in that right now, so they're meeting that objective, and especially when you pass the budget, they get a go in that way. On page 88, you'll see that the workload indicators are very similar. We project that we will continue our AAA rating. We've already found that out from at least one agency already, Fitch, and otherwise our objectives are similar, and also another department, of course, when the COVID-19 broke out, that we could not shut them down either. They had to continue to work. The objective for 2023: maintain a city certificate of achievement and go forward with the budget as we mentioned. Coordinate the staff. Significant budget changes. Staff will implement an automated flow process to requisition and vendor payment process to increase the processing efficiencies. That's forthcoming, and there will be a cost associated with that. The salaries and wages and fringe benefits, we have 11.8 full-time employees dedicated to the finance department. And of course, just as a note, a percentage of the overall finance department is also dedicated to the water system, and you will see them accounted for there. So contractual costs are significant at 62.4. Annual audit fees, cost for arbitrage, compliance and calculating services, and professional services. We use an armored car, bank fees, and other temporaries and actuaries. Okay, and on the second page, we got $29,000 for forms, office equipment, and other supplies. Any questions regarding the finance department's budget?
I would just like to make a comment and say thank you to Byron and the team for being such an award-winning finance team. We appreciate all that you do.
Well, great. Then we will move now to non-departmental, and I shall hand that over to Mr. Matthews.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. Byron Matthews, Finance Director. The non-departmental section of the general fund basically describes expenditures that are not directly or exclusively associated with specific activities or programs. In this section, we cover the debt service, we cover contractual service, other charges, and transfers to other funds. In this portion, we have two outstanding debts that we're paying. One is the public improvement refunding bonds that actually funded the construction costs of the city of Bowie. This refunding bond was issued in order to get a lower interest rate from the original bond issuance that we had for the construction of the building. The bonds of 2019 represents the bonds that were issued in October 19 in order to gain funding for the Bowie Iceplex. With that, we have paying an agency fee, fiscal agent fees for $5,000. Contractual services deal with our annual insurance premium. Professional services amounts to consultant fees that we have, including insurance and employee benefits. Other charges are the educational reimbursements for all of the departments included in the general fund. And this is separate from water and sewer. They have their own allocation for educational reimbursements. On page 158, again, the incentive awards, $70,000. That covers all of the departments within the general fund. Reserve for contingencies, amounts that are provided for appropriation for efficiencies or expenditures that are unknown and or unanticipated. That's $300,000. Reserve for professional adjustments. This is again an account that helps the HR department hire new employees as well as give awards and adjustments. That's $80,000. The next section is the transfers to other funds. As you can see, in order to fund the capital projects program for FY23, the city is transferring $8,650,900 to the capital project fund. Our equipment acquisition and replacement fund, the city is transferring $2.9 million of funding. The equipment acquisition fund is the replacement of all of the scheduled equipment within the fiscal year. On page 159 is a breakdown of the debt service requirement for the public improvement bonds of 2015. As I indicated earlier, this section of the bonds were refunded for the financing of the current city hall. As you can see in the out years, 2024 to 2030, the actual debt service will diminish. On page 160, we have the last taxable public improvement bonds that were issued, again, for the Bowie Iceplex. The annual payment is $1,247,715 for FY23. And this is the debt service that we will continue to pay until 2050. That was issued in October 2019, again, specifically for the Bowie Iceplex. I am complete, Council and Mayor. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer them. Thank you.
Byron, if I may, Mr. Matthews, I just go back again, understanding the economic times we're in now and the difficulty in maintaining and recruiting personnel, and I know you have the numbers in here. I just would like to make sure that we've reviewed that, the way it's going, and seeing how the trend is still going, to make sure that we have enough in those contingencies and for personnel adjustments moving forward. Do you feel quite confident with where those numbers are now?
Thank you for the question, Mayor. Yes, staff reviewed those as well as reviewed the ones in the Water and Sewer Division, and we think the numbers that we have provided you in this proposed budget are adequate to cover the cost that we may realize from hiring additional qualified employees.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
All right, Mr. Mayor, we done. That completes our work for this evening. Mayor Adams and City Council. If you don't have any other questions, I'd just like to note that our next budget work session number 5, which would be our last one, is scheduled for the 9th of May. And of course, the next public meeting is on May 2nd. Okay.
All right, well,
We've done our job. Thank you.
All right, well, thank
Mayor
you.
Pro Tem,
Yep, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
it's been moved and
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please respond with an aye.
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 Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries. Hey, I'd just like to say thank you again to staff and to the council for the excellent work you continue to do. Everyone, please have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Mayor.